Now, from the Action 4 studios, Sports Director Clay Williams and Joe Boley bring you the best in Valley High School football from the week past and for the week ahead. Highlights, analysis, and predictions from all across the Valley. It's time for Sunday Sports Extra.
It is time for Sunday Sports Extra. Good morning and welcome to Week 6 and the second half of the Rio Grande Valley's high school football season, regular season that is. Hard to believe we're already here, but we are. Action 4 Sports Director Clay Williams with you, Action 4 Sports Reporter Joe Boley, and our special guest this week, it is Dennis Silva from the Monitor, the 32-4A beat writer, and it's a good thing he's here because we've got a lot to talk about in that district. Let's go ahead and get started with Ed Couch Elsa and Mission. This one from Friday night, and the Jackets really making a statement in this one. Dennis, talk a little bit about this game and the fact that the Jackets were able to get their offense to go against a strong Mission defense and really come back from those mistakes that they made in the Roma game the week prior.
Yeah, I think this was a performance that was one of the cleanest and all-around more balanced for Ed Couch that we've seen this season. You mentioned Mission's defense, and they've got a strong defense. They came in averaging 11 points on 175 yards, and Ed Couch just had their way, especially Israel Laredo had 3 touchdowns in the first half. They just ran the ball all over the place. It was a good statement win in that, I mean, Joe Marshall wanted to get that running game going. He knows that's in the playoffs, that's what he's going to have to do is run the ball more, ball control. He cleaned up the turnovers, he cleaned up the penalties, only 3, so that was good to see from Ed Couch's standpoint. Now,
what wasn't cleaned up was a fight that happened towards the end of the first half on this touchdown pass from Bruno Sainz to Israel Laredo. Laredo gets up, he hands the ball to the guy who was defending him, Steven Cavazos. Cavazos gets upset, we've got ourselves a brouhaha. It's a hootenanny. It is, yeah, it's not what you want to see out there, but it happened. What did Joe have to say after the game, Coach Maurice Chillar, about the fights and his thoughts and the fact that Israel Laredo, without Israel Laredo, the Ed Couch Elsa offense didn't miss a beat? Yeah, well, I think that speaks to the depth of Ed Couch Elsa this year, just offensively, just what they were able to do, plug in Miguel Mariscal right in the backfield, and you don't really miss a beat. But as far as Coach talking about the fight, he just said you can't control it. I mean, deal with what you can control. You can't control something like that happening when emotions get the best of you. And I think, I mean, the late hit, and I don't know if emotions, if that defense, they're not used to getting scored on like that so consistently. Ed Couch was having their way. I think it's just a matter of kids losing their emotions. Well, that's the second week in a row we've seen it, Joe, because the PSG North game last week, now that's a big rivalry. We saw it there as well. Is there something that coaches need to be doing? Is there something referees need to be doing? Or is it just the kids need to realize that, hey, show your swagger in the halls of your high school, because if you show it out there on the field, you're going to leave your team empty-handed.
Well, first of all, social media is leading to this kind of stuff. There's no secret to that. I think what happens is you coaches can do something about it. The late hit afterwards. Okay, you got scored on. Don't go hit the kid afterwards. And then secondly, don't go throwing a football at a kid after you score a touchdown. Coaches can do stuff about that. They can isolate that very video right there and say, I don't want my players doing this part of that. And then you start curtailing it in. Officials throw the flags, throw guys out. That's all they can do.
And they did in that game. The other big, interesting game from Friday night in 32-4A, Rio Grande City and Roma, the Starr County Super Bowl, and Rio Grande City just taking Roma to the woodshed, Dennis. I don't think anybody expected this. I mean, Orly Solis held under 100 yards. You see his touchdown here, but that's it. This is all the offense Roma was able to muster all night long. It had to be a surprise to you as well. It was a surprise, but it probably wasn't a surprise to anyone outside of Rio Grande City. I think those kids pretty much knew. I mean, this is big to them. I mean, Coach was saying it's personal for Starr County when you get to Roma and Rio Grande City. So, I mean, they had a good offense. We knew that. What's been most impressive is they've held teams to 7 points total the last 2 games, and I think that's something we haven't seen from Rio Grande City, that type of defensive production in a long time. Yeah, I mean, everybody was wondering about Rio Grande City because of their pre-district schedule. They weren't that impressive, Joe, but now 2-0 at this point in the season in 32-4A. Noe Gonzalez III looking good at quarterback. Coach Carlos Longoria has his Rattlers right where he wants them.
Yeah, he does. I think you look at the Ed Couch game and that game, and you look at what a coach's dream is. What if we do everything right? How good can we look? Well, look at the video there. They did just about everything right, and look how good they look.
All right, but now we've got a big game for Rio Grande City. Nobody's going to be taking them lightly, and they are hosting Mercedes coming up this Friday night. Dennis, tell me, what are your thoughts on this game, and who's going to be the winner?
It's big just from both being 2-0, obviously, but Mercedes defense giving up 36 points to PSG Southwest Friday. I thought that was a little interesting. Rio Grande City all of a sudden starts turning into a defensive juggernaut. That's interesting as well. So it's interesting with the fact that you're going to have two offenses. Both can air it out. Both can run the ball pretty well. But it's whose defense is going to stand up? Will it be Rio Grande City's continuing what the momentum it has, or will it be Mercedes as far as getting back on track? They want to be a defensive-minded club, and this would be the game to do that, to reassert their identity.
So who's your pick?
Oh, it's tough. I mean, you can flip a coin, but I'm going with Rio Grande City in this one.
All right, Joe?
Well, I'm going to go with Mercedes. I think they got well against Mission Vets. I think they got better with PSG Southwest. Defensively, I don't think it's going to be a slugfest there. I think it's going to be a shootout, and I think Mercedes can win a shootout.
Yeah, Dennis made a good point, though. Allowing that many points to PSG Southwest makes me wonder about Mercedes' defense. I'm going to go with Rio Grande City as well. Quickly, let's go to the other game. It's Roma at Mission. Dennis, who's going to win that game?
Tough. I mean, both are battered. They're physical teams. I know Mission's kind of hurting a bit. They've got some injuries going on, and Roma too. I'm going with Roma simply because I picked them to make the playoffs, and this is a game they have to have if they're going to make the playoffs.
Mission at home, their defense is going to be hurting all week, wanting to get back at somebody. They're going to take it out on Roma.
I get the feeling this is going to be an ugly, ugly game to watch. And but I think Orly Solis comes through. I don't think he liked only getting 80 yards this last week. I've got Roma winning. That is it for this particular segment of Sunday Sports Extra, but don't go anyway. We are coming right back. We're going to talk about the unbelievable finish on Friday night in Brownsville, an overtime game to remember. And we're talking about the Cardinals and their offense. How balanced were they? How much more balanced can they possibly get? It's all when we come back.